Good morning. Welcome to the Harrisburg Area YMCA East Shore Branch. My name is Eric Rothermel, and I'm the Vice President of Government Relations here at the Harrisburg Area YMCA. I'd like to thank the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Governor Josh Shapiro, Secretary of Revenue Pat Brown, Representative Nate Davidson, and AARP's State Director Bill Johnston-Walsh, along with Representative Marla Brown, for visiting with us today here at the YMCA. I also would like to thank Governor Josh Shapiro's communications team, East Shore Branch YMCA's Executive Director Chelston Anderson, and all the staff involved to make the event possible this morning. 86 men live in our residence hall and call the East Shore Branch YMCA home. Community-based organizations like the YMCA, working together with state government and other community partners with similar missions, allow great things to be accomplished. Too often, organizations work in silos, which is not cost effective, many times competitive, and creates boundaries and obstacles and sets up roadblocks in communities for people that need critical services like PA's property tax rent rebate program. I am proud to stand before you today to say that the Harrisburg Area YMCA is working hard to expand our outreach of enrollment to PA's property tax rent rebate program, not only here in Harrisburg and Central PA, but across the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Through the Harrisburg Area YMCA Center for Healthy Living, and led by Amy Jacobs, the Executive Director, the Harrisburg Area YMCA employs 77 PA-certified community health workers, and also travel the state to serve people where they are. The property tax rent rebate program is just another resource, another tool, another benefit that the YMCA staff can connect those in need to in order to assist families, seniors, and those with disabilities with building a healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. At this time, I'm privileged and honored to introduce to you the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's 48th Governor, Josh Shapiro. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Eric. It is good to be in a Y, and it is good to be in the Harrisburg Y. My family and I were longtime Y members in Montgomery County. We've been longtime supporters of the Y. It is transformational what happens here, from the athletics to the community that gets built to the resources that a community can get here. I think it's a really special place. I want you to know, these big dudes in the back, I was walking in and they were wondering what was really going on. They were here to lift. And I said, well, you got to listen to this press conference. There'll be an exam on it afterwards. Then you guys can go lift. So, guys, I hope this isn't too burdensome for you, but it's good to see you guys here, and hope you're having a good and safe summer here in Harrisburg. I just think the Ys are wonderful connecting points in our community, and they do really important work serving the broader community, but especially our seniors, helping them specifically apply for and access the benefits that they have earned throughout their lives. The property tax rent rebate is one of those critically important benefits. It puts money directly back in the pockets of our seniors, helping them stay in their homes and in their apartments and deal with the rising costs every day. And so I'm proud to be here today to announce that tomorrow, July 1st, property tax relief checks will go out to hundreds of thousands of seniors all across Pennsylvania. This is a big deal for Pennsylvania seniors. You know, I've heard for years, I know the representatives have as well, from seniors who were struggling to stay in their homes, who needed just a little bit of extra help, and how the property tax rent rebate is a critical lifeline for them. You know, before I took office as your 48th governor, the property tax relief system had not been updated in about 20 years. Democratic and Republican elected officials alike all talked about how they wanted to fix the system, but no one had. I got elected, and within 6 months, we brought Republicans and Democrats together to finally, after nearly 2 decades, update our property tax relief system. And it was important because the same amount of relief that was delivered back in 2006 is what seniors got in 2022. And on top of that, because Social Security had actually increased with the cost of living during those years, a whole bunch of seniors got priced out and didn't receive the property tax rent rebate relief that they deserved. Again, when I ran for governor, I promised we would change that, and we did. In addition to the obvious, bringing Republicans and Democrats together to pass this targeted tax relief, we were able to increase the amount available to seniors and increase the number of seniors who are now eligible for this relief. We were able to take the maximum relief from $650 all the way up to $1,000 and increase the income limit to $45,000 and make sure that that limit was tied to a cost of living index so seniors would never be priced out again. And that means that this year, the income limit now stands at $46,520 to account for that cost of living, and it will grow in the years to come. Taken together, we work together to deliver the largest targeted tax cut for seniors in 20 years. That's a big deal. In 2023, before these changes went into effect, about 405,000 Pennsylvanians received a rebate. Now, thanks to that new funding formula, the new dollars that are committed to Pennsylvania seniors, we have increased that number to nearly 600,000 Pennsylvanians. Tomorrow, those rebate checks will be mailed and those direct deposits will be sent to an initial 477,000 seniors. That's 477,000 seniors who have already applied. They're going to get their relief. If they requested their relief via check, they'll probably get that in a couple of weeks. And if they requested their check via direct deposit, they will have it in their accounts tomorrow. Thanks to the extraordinary work that's been done by Secretary Brown and his team at the Department of Revenue, they're processing more applications far more quickly than ever before and getting these dollars into the hands of our seniors quickly. They've also collaborated with our state government to ease the process, to make it easier for our seniors to be able to apply, whether they apply here at the YMCA or they choose to go online. And if they choose to go online, the system is so much easier now, thanks to the partnership with Code PA, our own internal digital services team, to develop that work together with Revenue to develop a tool where Pennsylvanians can now easily find a place where they can file their rebate application in person, and a far simpler system if they want to file it online. In addition to our Spanish-speaking neighbors, you can now conduct this application process fully in Spanish to make sure that those who speak Spanish can get the rebates that they are entitled to. And to make the process even more accessible, a tip sheet with more information about the program is now available not just in Spanish, but 7 languages total, so that folks can get the help they need in their native tongue. So listen, if you've already applied and you were approved, again, via check, you'll get that check in the next couple of weeks. Via direct deposit, you will have that money tomorrow. And if you are eligible and you haven't yet applied, I want you to apply right now. Before I said we increased the number to about 600,000 seniors, but only 477,000 have applied so far. Roughly 125,000 more seniors all across Pennsylvania are eligible for this relief, but haven't applied yet. And so today I'm also here to announce that we've extended the deadline to December 31st to allow for those additional 125,000 seniors to be able to get the money that they are entitled to. And so I urge you to head on over to the Department of Revenue's website if you haven't already and apply, or stop on down to the Harrisburg YMCA or the Y in your community and apply right there. Again, I want to thank Secretary Brown and his team for the great work that they have done at the Department of Revenue to make this happen. I realize that a few $100 more back in the pockets of our seniors, that makes a big difference. And I think the peace of mind, knowing that you're not going to be priced out in future years because we index this, I think that's also really important to our seniors as well. This is an example of what happens when we work together, when we set the table for progress and bring Republicans and Democrats together to work with us. I want you to know that that is what we are quite literally doing right now as we work to try and finalize the final pieces of our state budget. We're communicating effectively, we're bringing Republicans and Democrats together, and we all understand the issues, and we all understand that compromise is the name of the game. We've proven over the last 2 years, when we compromise, we can help our seniors, we can fund our schools, we can hire more police and have safer communities. We can create economic opportunities and land huge deals like the $20 billion economic development announcement I announced with Amazon just a couple weeks ago, the largest economic development announcement in the history of this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So by working together, we're getting a whole lot of stuff done. I have a lot of partners in that work. You're going to hear from Representative Davidson in a few moments. Within my cabinet, we are all working together in order to get more stuff done. And I want to now bring up the person who's been orchestrating this important work on property tax relief. That is the Secretary of the Department of Revenue, Secretary Pat Brown.
Good morning, everybody. Proud to stand with Governor Shapiro on behalf of the entire Department of Revenue to advance his goals to expand eligibility for this program and making sure it meets the needs of seniors in the 21st century. To repeat the most important news, we are prepared starting tomorrow, July 1st, to do direct deposits and mail out 425,000 rebate checks. That's over 90% of those who have applied so far. We're just, the difference between what we can provide and what is going out is just need to work with some folks on additional information, but it's 90% and over 100,000 more than what was provided for 2 years ago before Governor Shapiro prioritized the longstanding need to expand the eligibility for this program. That's the first story. The second story comes as a result of the governor's extension of the deadline, December 31st. We're expecting over 540,000 total recipients and applicants to receive rebates. And that's at $317,000 total over the course of the year. Again, it's hundreds of millions of dollars more, hundreds of thousands of more before the governor's initiative as part of his first budget passed. And in order to accommodate the hundreds of thousands of more, we have and continue to increase our resources and capacities dedicated to this important program, including, as the governor said, promoting the use of technology. Technology through our MyPass system, which allows for online filing. We've seen a 21% increase just in last year, from 111,000 to over 130,000 that are using online filing. Just allows for a more efficient process because we don't have to key in all the information again. Allows us to cut the processing time in half from 15 days to 7 days to complete the processing application. As the governor said, eliminating language barriers so that all of our applications and instructions are now in Spanish to eliminate those barriers, and holding over 100 outreach events, partnering with our district offices to have outreach events to work with seniors on filling out the applications. But of course, our goal, working with the governor, according to his goals for this program, is as close to 100% participation as possible. We will continue to expand our capacities to go beyond just general promotion and look to direct contact, direct correspondence with those who may be eligible. Since I began working in the tax area 30 years ago, probably the biggest evolution that existed for tax agencies across the nation is a cultural one, looking at the people they serve not just as taxpayers, but as customers and clients. In this regard, like a tax practitioner would do for their client, with the information we have available through our MyPass system and in the public domain, we will be able to identify those individuals who probably do qualify, but just haven't participated and haven't filed, and then send out notification to them telling them, based on information we have, you probably qualify for this program, and it would be worth your while to apply. Just imagine that, getting a notice from a tax agency not telling you how much you owe, but what you're entitled to. This will be the first in the nation initiative, and under Governor Shapiro's leadership, continuing to expand and modernize this program for the benefit of so many worthy senior citizens. So thank you, and I'll turn the mic over to the director of our AARP.
Thanks. Hey, Bill.
How are you? Good. As the Secretary said, I'm Bill Johnston Walsh. I'm the State Director for AARP Pennsylvania. On behalf of our 1.8 million members in communities across the Commonwealth, I'm honored to be here today, this final day of June, as we ensure that Pennsylvanians are aware of the property tax and rent rebate program and remind them, as the Governor has, that if they've already applied, the rebates will begin to be issued to them tomorrow. At AARP, we do a lot of surveys. We're constantly surveying our members across the country and here in Pennsylvania. In our most recent survey in Pennsylvania of Pennsylvanians aged 45 and older on issues that are impacting them, we found out that 86% are extremely or find it very important for them to stay in their own homes as they age. And that's something that we hear over and over again. So we were not surprised by that. Yet 59% reported that increased property taxes would impact their ability to age in place where they want to be in their homes and in their communities. It's survey data like this, which highlights the needs and concerns of Pennsylvanians, that lead for us to not even hesitate to support the Governor's 2023 proposal to expand the property tax and rent rebate program. As soon as we heard it, we were right there with him, really letting our members and those 50 plus knowing that how important this was. And it delivered much needed relief for age and income eligible homeowners and renters across the Commonwealth. This long overdue expansion is putting money back into the pockets of program participants, helping them, as I said earlier, age in place and afford essentials like food, utilities, and prescription drugs. One of the most important things that we constantly hear over and over again, and one of the stats that I just want to tell all of you, I know the Governor knows this, and I know our elected officials know the stat, but by 2030, which is less than 5 years away, 1 in 3 Pennsylvanians will be over the age of 65. So I'm just going to say that again. Less than 5 years, 1 in 3 Pennsylvanians will be over the age of 65. That'll be more people over the age of 65 than there are 18 and unders in Pennsylvanians in this Commonwealth. So again, I just think that's very important in the work that the legislature is doing, that the Governor is doing, to make sure that older Pennsylvanians can stay in their homes, can age with dignity, is just key. So we are here today at AARP and our 1.8 million members to thank the governors and the members of the General Assembly who supported the expansion and urge all policymakers to continue to look for meaningful ways to provide relief that is equitable, cost-effective, and targeted to homeowners and renters with low and moderate incomes burdened by their property tax bill or rent. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Representative Nathan Davidson, who's a good friend of older Pennsylvanians. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thanks for being here today, everyone. It's a privilege to speak with everyone today about this program that is making a real impact on our communities, our seniors, our adults living with disabilities, frankly, our neighbors. And I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to Governor Shapiro for his leadership in securing the largest expansion of this program in nearly 30 years. And I'll come back to that in a moment. And this isn't just a talking point. It is a testament to his commitment to supporting Pennsylvanians who need help most. Now, this program is a lifeline for our elderly, disabled residents, providing much-needed financial relief, helps them stay in their homes, age in place, cover essential costs, maintain their independence. For many, these rebates mean the difference between struggling to make ends meet and having a bit more breathing room in their household budget every year. My district office just opened in January, and we have already witnessed the direct impact of this expanded program. My team has proudly assisted dozens of our neighbors and constituents with their applications, and we will be returning tens of thousands of dollars back to the constituents of the 103rd District here in Dauphin and Cumberland counties. These aren't just numbers, these are groceries, they're prescription medications, and a little less worry for families right here in our community. And while my office is always ready to help, most residents of the Commonwealth navigate this system quite easily on their own. And that's thanks to the innovations at the Department of Revenue and Secretary Brown. And it is so important that this support remain available for Pennsylvanians in perpetuity. Now, this is a shining example of how our government can work effectively and get stuff done right here in the Commonwealth, providing meaningful benefits to those who are the most vulnerable. It's about ensuring our seniors and disabled adults can live with dignity and security. And I just wanted to, again, extend a special thank you to Governor Shapiro. Now, you may not remember this, but in 2023, in your first budget negotiation, I was a staffer. I worked in the Appropriations Committee. And governors and legislative leaders, we get to bring our priorities to the budget table every year, and you open the door saying budget, so I'm going through it. It's June 30th here in Harrisburg. And we all get to bring those priorities to the table. And many prior governors did not lift up this program, did not address the needs of our seniors to pay their property taxes and the impact it's having on their household budgets. But Governor Shapiro spent his political capital in his first budget to expand this program, to raise the amount that we give to our seniors and increase the floor so even more are able to receive some property tax relief. That took courage and a lot of commitment. And that's why I know this year, in this year's negotiations, which aren't complete yet, but will be soon, I believe, I know that Governor Shapiro will have those most vulnerable at the forefront of his negotiations, because he's already done it. So with that, I want to thank the governor again. Thanks for being here. I'll take the budget second.
So I'll take a few questions from the media. Before I do, I just have to brag a little bit about my wife, our First Lady of Pennsylvania. While we are here today in this air-conditioned room at the Harrisburg Y, I want you to know she got up real early this morning down the road, got in the car, and at about 8 o'clock in the morning was down at the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, beginning her long journey across every mile of the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania. She was there with Secretary Fundun and Secretary Fundun's counterpart in Maryland, and she's there to highlight the outdoors and talk about how important it is to continue to build out our trails and enjoy the outdoors in Pennsylvania. And I FaceTimed with her just a couple minutes ago. She was sweating pretty good, but enjoying her trip, and she's going to be inviting Pennsylvanians along the way at different pieces to join her, and I look forward to joining her as well. So I just had to brag on her a little bit. I love her to death, and she's a hell of a First Lady. So, look, with that, I'm happy to take a few questions from the media. Dennis.
Governor, with the bill that's in Congress right now, they haven't completely nailed it down, but it appears likely that for SNAP benefits, they're going to increase the state's share from 50 to 75% for the administrative costs. Your reaction to that, what's that mean for Pennsylvania?
This bill that is making its way through Washington right now, seemingly being rushed through, would have a devastatingly negative impact on Pennsylvania. I've been very outspoken about that and really, specific about the harm it would do to Pennsylvanians. I know you asked about SNAP. Let me cover that and the other negative impacts. First, about 500,000 Pennsylvanians would lose access to health care. 310,000 of them would lose Medicaid, and about 200,000 would lose access to Penny because of those changes. That's a huge impact. We've got 3.1 million Pennsylvanians who rely on Medicaid right now, and so a little over 10% would lose access to health care. When it comes to SNAP, as you mentioned in your question, about 140,000 Pennsylvanians would lose access to food assistance, and they would dramatically increase, to the point of your question, the state share. I have made very clear Pennsylvania can't backfill those cuts on Medicaid or on SNAP. And there's real question as to whether or not we'd even be able to operate SNAP any longer, given the change in the formula and given the people that are going to be knocked off. Beyond Medicaid and SNAP, we have about 25 rural hospitals in Pennsylvania that are operating at a deficit, where more than 50% of their revenue each year is coming from Medicaid. By slashing Medicaid, you're actually putting those 25 rural hospitals at risk. Beyond healthcare and food assistance, 26,000 people in Pennsylvania will likely lose their jobs. These are people who work in the energy sector. And because of the devastating cuts to energy, you're putting a whole lot of people out of work and making it harder for us in Pennsylvania, a net energy exporter, to do the work we need to do to generate more energy, particularly more clean energy. I don't know why they're rushing this through and at the same time making all of those cuts, ballooning our federal deficit by $3.3 trillion, with a T, trillion dollars. It kind of doesn't make sense to me. You know, President Trump ran on a platform of cutting the deficit, said he'd never knock anybody off of Medicaid, and he wanted more energy jobs in the United States. He's doing the exact opposite and screwing over, by the way, some of the very people that voted for him. Those rural hospitals are largely in communities that supported the president. Those lifelines in those communities are going to be taken away. A ton of people in rural communities that voted for the president access Medicaid and SNAP benefits. The president loved to hug the building trades during his campaign, and now he's pushing them aside with these cuts to energy projects. I hope cooler heads will prevail. I hope the Senate of the United States will not pass a bill that will be devastating to Pennsylvania and other states. I hope that the House and Senate will realize ramming this through is harmful and, by the way, very unpopular, and instead try and work in a bipartisan manner to give tax relief to people who need it and protect people's access to health care and food assistance.
One follow-up, there's one bill that would tie funding to the error rate, quote-unquote, error rate on SNAP. And Pennsylvania's at about 13%, 15%, pretty high.
Yeah.
Some call that punitive, but what would the impact of that be? And some would ask, why is our error rate so high?
The new error rate, I think, is actually being released today. I don't know if it's come out yet, so let's kind of put a pin in that. The error rate before we took office was in the high 20s. We've brought it down. We've made a ton of changes, and I think we're going to get it down even further on SNAP. On Medicaid, we actually are one of the leaders in the nation when it comes to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. Very proud of that. And I have to tell you, I had to laugh when I heard some of our federal officials, including them and those from Pennsylvania, who said, well, we're not knocking anybody off of Medicaid, we're just knocking, their words, illegal immigrants off and getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, here in Pennsylvania, it's against the law to provide Medicaid to someone who's undocumented. And furthermore, we're one of the leaders in the country when it comes to dealing with waste, fraud, and abuse. They want to give us some help on further waste, fraud, and abuse reduction. Happy to work with them on that. But that is just a phony excuse for their desire to knock hundreds of thousands of people off of Medicaid, off of SNAP. And let's be real, you know why they're doing it? Because they're trying to give a massive tax cut to people who don't need it. And by the way, a whole bunch of people who aren't even asking for it. I think that's bad fiscal policy. And I think the sleeper here, something nobody's really talking about, is $3.3 trillion added to our national deficit. That's going to mean higher costs for Pennsylvanians, whether it's energy costs or just their daily ability to borrow money. It is going to mean less freedom in this country. And it's going to mean your children and your grandchildren and their children are going to be the ones paying the bill for these idiotic policies Donald Trump and his cronies are trying to ram through right now. Okay?
Governor, speaking of fiscal policy.
Go ahead, I call on you.
Governor, Cleveland-Cliffs is shutting down their steel plant just down the road in Steelton. Your thoughts on keeping steel jobs in Pennsylvania and the future of steel jobs?
Yeah. You know, I know Representative Davidson and his colleagues, Senator Kim and others, were just over there. I've been to that facility, And my team and I, in particular the team at the Department of Community and Economic Development, are working hard right now to try and see what can be done to protect the Durabond jobs that are there, and see what can come in the place of Cliffs closing down these facilities. Look, I am bullish on the future of steelmaking in Pennsylvania. I think getting that Nippon deal done was really helpful. I worked with all sides to try and bring them together on that. I applaud the president and his efforts for helping to get that over the finish line with Nippon's now acquisition of U.S. Steel done. I think we have an opportunity to grow again in Pennsylvania. And when we're growing steel jobs, that's good not just for Western Pennsylvania, but for the facility here in Steelton, the facility in Conshohocken, and elsewhere. I want us to be making steel not only in America, but specifically here in Pennsylvania with the hands of U.S. steel workers. And I believe that bright days are ahead, even though we have to work through some of these issues right now. So we're going to keep at it and see what can be done. I got to say to Representative Davidson, Senator Kim, and the rest of the delegation, they've been on top of this. I appreciate their leadership in this space as well. Okay? Thanks.
Governor, any update on budget negotiations from over the weekend?
We were very busy this weekend. The teams from Representative Bradford's team, Senator Pittman's team, and mine met throughout the weekend. We were all personally engaged. I think we made real progress, and we're going to continue to make progress. We understand what the issues are, and we are working through the solutions on those issues. I think the temperature is way down. We respect one another, and we respect what each party has to bring back to their constituents, back to their caucuses, back to the communities that they represent. And I'm determined to help everyone find a way to have wins for their communities, just as I've done in the last two budgets. I'm confident we're going to get there. I'm confident that we're going to get there and get there in a way that lifts Pennsylvania up and continues to make progress. The leaders can speak for themselves and their schedules going forward, but I anticipate we'll continue to meet in earnest with a whole lot of regularity and a whole bunch of different working groups that we have in place now over the next several days, and that we'll land this very, very soon. Thank you all very much. Okay.